Today, we're going to talk about one of the most important building blocks of retirement planning, and that's maximizing retirement accounts. So, a lot to cover. Let's get going. Over the last 4 or 5 weeks, we've been covering a number of topics. If you haven't had a chance, go back to our website, srctexas.com. And we started with financial security, and that's unique for everybody. What is it going to take to make you feel comfortable financially in retirement? You need to set some goals. The second step is planning. Build a financial model. We help people do this that shows them exactly how they're going to go about achieving their financial goals. In our practice, we found that income is actually more important than assets. And if you listen to the webinar on the power of income, you'll see that it provides vehicles for multiplying the value of the money you have, which is something we're going to talk about today. We also then talked about maximizing Social Security. Social Security is an important building block. There are ways to multiply and maximize what you're going to receive from Social Security over your lifetime. So if you haven't had a chance, go back and listen to that. Today, we're going to talk about the first of the two big asset classes that are available to most people as we move into retirement. The first one is retirement accounts, IRAs, 401ks. We're going to hit that today. And then many of us have a lot of home equity. We might be savings poor, but house rich. And so we'll talk next week about ways to tap home equity tax-free to once again support a safe, secure retirement. Quick disclaimer, everyone's situation is unique. Actual results from examples and case studies will vary, and we are not securities licensed. Please refer all stock and bond security questions to a licensed securities professional. So what's the challenge that we face as we move into retirement? I already said this. Most people enter retirement with two primary assets, a home, and if you live in Central Texas, you've probably built up substantial equity, and then IRA or 401k retirement accounts. And maximizing the value of our retirement accounts is critical to a safe, secure retirement. So that's what we're going to explore today, different strategies for maximizing the value of what we have. We're actually going to go into 4 different strategies. These kind of interrelate with one another, but I think you'll see that there's a number of factors that can tend to undermine how much we have in retirement accounts. And so we're going to attack this from different angles. We're going to talk about safe asset growth. We're going to talk about required minimum distributions. Is there a smarter way to be doing them? We think there is. We're going to touch on gradual Roth conversions because taxes tend to undermine our retirement accounts. If they're all pre-tax dollars, we're going to have to pay taxes on that. And the question is, would moving into a Roth environment be beneficial? And finally, most of us are going to live long enough to require long-term care. And so long-term care can very quickly undermine our retirement accounts. We're going to show you ways to use your retirement accounts to shield them and then to pay for long-term care. Let's start out with safe asset growth. And here we've got really 2 simple guidelines or 2 simple goals that we're trying to accomplish. One, we want to eliminate management fees. That's fees you're paying to an advisor to manage your money. We'll talk about why that's problematic. And finally, and second, we'll talk about avoiding market corrections. If you remember 2000 or 2008, those weren't pleasant times for folks that were in the market. We've seen wonderful growth in the market, but a lot of pundits are now saying it may be time for another correction. Let's start on fees. Fees reduce your return. Anytime you're taking fees out and paying it out to someone else, it's cutting into the returns you're receiving from the performance of your IRA or 401k accounts. But some of the fees we see are visible. Oftentimes, many are hidden. And so we're going to dig into this and see if we can figure out what this means. And oh my gosh, well, this didn't look quite like I thought it would, but there's really 2 different types of fees we pay. The obvious fee, the visible fee, is what we pay to our advisor. And typically we find many of our clients are paying 1% a year of their asset value to an advisor to manage their money. And then depending on how the funds are invested, there can be a second fee. And second fees often apply if you're invested in mutual funds. And they typically have fees ranging anywhere from a fraction of a percent all the way up to 2 or 3%. Depends on the mutual fund that you're in. But mutual fund fees are normally hidden. They're extracted from the performance of the fund you're in, but you don't see them on your statement. And that's kind of problematic. Typically, we find mutual funds can, as I said, range, but let's say it's 1%. If I add the two fees together, 1% visible advisor, 1% mutual fund, we're paying, let's say, 2% a year to have our money managed. Well, if you're with an advisor for 10 years, do the simple math. 2 times 10 is 20%. Literally, you've paid a fifth of your money to an advisor to tell you how to invest. So if there's a way to reduce asset fees, that can be very helpful. The second option is avoid market corrections. We talked about how painful 2000 and 2008 were. And so if we look, I've got a chart here that shows the S&P 500 starting in 2000 and up through 2020. You can see there were some good years. We're on the lower line now, the rabbit line, and that's the line goes down in the early 2000s because there was a correction. Then it came back up, and there was a drop again in 2008. And then the market's been up and down since then, done very well in the last couple of years. Well, if you chart the same market conditions and take away market corrections, what you see is the upper line, what we call tortoise investing. It's kind of the slow plodding, but always moving forward investment strategy. And this is the strategy that we suggest to our clients. Before I actually talk about how we go about doing tortoise investing, there's another factor that affects the money we have. And in that prior chart, let's go back one, I show you money growing, going up and down over a 20-year period. But what didn't we do during this entire time period? We didn't take any money out. And that's pretty much unrealistic. In retirement, we're either taking money out because we're forced to by the government for required minimum distributions, or more likely we're taking money out to live on. So this second chart shows the impact of withdrawing $5,000 annually from a $100,000 fund, and it shows the trend lines. You notice something very interesting. Withdrawals have a marked impact on how well our money does. If you're withdrawing money when the stock market or the investments are down, that can really cripple an investment. So there are three principal factors that affect our money. One is the management fees we pay. Want to avoid those. The second is market corrections, which can be very painful. And then finally, the timing of when you have to withdraw funds, whether it's because of government regulations or just because you need your money. So what's our alternative? What is an alternative to an investment that has fees and that rides up and down with the stock market? Well, we set up some goals when we started doing retirement planning 20 years ago. We wanted to look for options where your money grows when the market is up, avoids market corrections when the market is down, and has no management fees. And the solution, one of the solutions we offer to our clients are products called tax-deferred indexed annuities. You can peg the growth against the stock market. Today, there are products that have caps on the S&P 500 of like 8 to 10%, which means the market's up 6, you get 6. Market's up 8, you get 8. Market's up 12, you get up to the cap limit. But what happens when the market's down 20%? You don't participate. So we've taken market risk off the table, and many of the products we offer have no management fees. So it's a nice way to grow your money without having to worry about what's going to happen in the stock market. The second major opportunity is smarter required minimum distributions, or RMDs. If you're turning 73, you've probably heard about these. So what is a required minimum distribution? It's a requirement by the government that after we have been invested for many years in an IRA or 401k, when we hit age 73, we have to start taking a portion of our retirement accounts out, RMDs. And there's a chart that if you have a chance, go to our website. You can download a copy of our book, More Money for Retirement. In there, there's a chart that shows you the various age-based divisors. So let's talk about how the math is done. It's very simple. If you're turning 73 and you go to the chart has number 26.5 next to age 73. If I divide 26.5 into the January 1st balance of a given year, that tells me, let's say I'm turning 73 this year, I would divide my account balance by 26.5. And what that translates into is I'm forced to take 3.8% of my money out. Whether I want to, need it, got to take it out, or there's a tax penalty. Now, the divisor decreases annually as we age. So that 26.5 is going to go down. As the divisor decreases, the percentage we have to take out increases. So just so everybody understands, the older we get, the larger percentage we have to take out each year as a required minimum distribution. So here's a simple example. We've got same dollar value on both sides. I've divided it up 50-50 on the right side, but there's no magic to this division. If we divide the funds into two buckets on the right side, I'm putting some of the funds into a product. In this case, I'm using a tax-deferred annuity. Well, what happens when I turn 73? On the left side, we start doing annual dipping. You can see I show that some money is starting to come out of the IRA on the left side of the page. What about on the right side? Well, we don't dip. Instead, we turn on a feature that the annuity offers. It's called a lifetime income rider. And it's a percentage that you can take out the rest of your life. It's a lifetime payout. You can't outlive it. And it exceeds the RMD amount. So it satisfies Uncle Sam, tells Uncle Sam, hey, I'm taking out enough to make you happy, so leave me alone. So what happens over time? Well, on the left side, the annual dipping is increasing as that percentage goes up. On the right side, the value in my IRA annuity is going down because I'm taking out larger and larger chunks of money annually. So let's fast forward. There's going to come a point after about 12 or 13 years in retirement and drawing this lifetime income that I've actually drained the annuity bucket. But remember, I said it was lifetime income. If you're married, it covers both spouses. So no matter who's alive, you're getting a lifetime payment. Kind of like Social Security, which we talked about last week. You know, with Social Security, after you've drawn benefits for about 11 years, they've paid you back everything you put in and your employer put in, but the checks keep coming. That's a nice feeling. Well, the same thing is true with this IRA annuity. We're essentially creating another lifetime pension that we can't outlive. But something else takes place when the bucket goes empty. You're not only getting free money, this is money that you never put in, but it's actually multiplying the value of your money. That's what lifetime income does. For the first 11, 12 years, they're paying back what you put in. But after that, the checks keep coming. And if you live long enough, and many of us will, you actually can multiply the value of your money. We show clients how to do this every week. Something else happens when the bucket is almost empty. Remember, we set up an IRA annuity 12 years ago. But as the bucket is approaching empty, we go back to the company that issues it, an insurance company, and say, hey, I want to flip my IRA to a Roth. And if you know about Roth IRAs, you know that the income they generate is tax-free. So not only have we created a lifetime income stream where we're getting free money, but we're also getting tax-free money, which means you don't have to give Uncle Sam a portion of what's coming out the rest of your life. So we show clients how to do these smarter RMDs every day. And trust me, it adds to your bottom line value. It adds to people with more guaranteed income have better financial outcomes. Our 30-year models show this. Now, a third option to maximize what we're getting in our retirement accounts is to do what we call gradual Roth conversions. Sometimes people have plenty of income, so they don't need the strategy I just went over using an income rider to satisfy the RMD amount. But they still have large IRA investments, and they want to find ways, what's the most tax efficient way to get money out? And so to do gradual Roth conversions, we're going to use the IRS tax tables. They're graduated. I'll explain that. And we're going to convert IRA dollars staying in a low tax bracket. That's one of our goals. There are no income, age, or dollar limits on doing IRA to Roth conversions. So this is something that's available to everyone. And a key, we want to pay the tax obligation from other savings so that the Roth dollars start out, whatever dollars you take out in Roth convert, you start out and maximize the Roth investment. Let's see if we can understand how this gradual Roth conversion takes place. This is a copy of the 2025 tax brackets. You can see there's a 10% tax bracket covering the first amount of money that we earn. And then above that 10% bracket, any income above that up to the thresholds I've got marked in yellow, $48,475 if you're single, or $96,950 if you're married. Well, that money above that 10% bracket, that's taxed at a 12% rate. Those are very low tax rates, 10 or 12%. We go above that, we get into the 22, 24, and higher tax brackets. We'll go down to the bottom of the page, and let's say we've got a couple that's both over 65. Their standard deduction this year is $31,500. That big, beautiful bill that Congress passed several months ago created another opportunity for seniors over 65 to get an additional $6,000 of standard deduction. So if I'm married, that's an additional $12,000, assuming both myself and my wife are over 65. I add that to the threshold of the 12% bracket, the top of it, the ceiling, $96,950. So what does this tell me? Optimal gross income. If I'm a married couple in a married couple situation, and our gross income is under $140,450, everything we have is being taxed at the low rates of either 10 or 12%. So where does this gradual Roth conversion fit in? Well, let's say my combined income with my wife is $120,450. So I'm $20,000 below the ceiling on the 12% bracket. Well, this is an opportunity. I can go to my IRA account, withdraw $20,000, pay the tax burden on it, which will be taxed at the low 12% rate. And now I have Roth converted that money. I can position it in a Roth, and it will continue to grow tax-free the rest of my life and my wife's life. And there's no required minimum distributions for a Roth account. So we use the tax tables to help our clients look for an opportunity to Roth convert funds. Now, the other key to maximizing the importance and the value of a Roth conversion is to pay the tax obligation out of other after-tax funds you have. So, simple example, let's say I've got $100,000 and I want to Roth convert it. And I'm just say the 12% bracket. So I would end up with $88,000 if I pay the tax obligation out of my IRA account. But what if I pay that $12,000 tax obligation out of some other after-tax savings I have? Then the Roth starts out at 100. And if you run a tax-free Roth against 100,000 taxable IRA, the Roth wins. The Roth outperforms it. So if you have questions on how to either do required minimum distributions using an annuity and an income rider, or if you have questions on doing gradual Roth conversions, come in and we can integrate this type of planning into the financial model we build and show you how to maximize your retirement accounts. So let's summarize how Roths compare to IRAs. The difference between an IRA and a Roth, you don't get the tax deduction up front. If you're contributing today to an IRA or 401k, you get a tax deduction on your income tax return. You don't get that with a Roth. So in that case, the IRA is more desirable. But look at these other factors. When you take principal out of the account in the future, you don't pay any tax on the Roth account. You do pay tax on IRAs and 401ks. What about whatever the account grows into? Once again, no tax on the Roth, but you are taxed on the 401k and IRA. With an IRA and a 401k, you have required minimum distributions, but you don't have any with the Roth. So you can let your money sit there, compound, and grow. What about inherited withdrawals? Are they taxable? And let's say you have a son or daughter that inherits your funds after you pass away. Under current rules, they have to take all of the money out of either an IRA or a Roth within a 10-year period. With the IRA, the money comes out and you have to pay tax on it. And if they're in their higher tax bracket or higher earning years when you pass away, that can be very detrimental. What about on the Roth side? Well, there's no tax required, and there's no, you don't have to withdraw. You do have to withdraw funds within 10 years, but all of it comes out tax-free. And how about what happens if in the future tax rates increase? Once again, the Roth is shielded because there are no taxes, whereas traditional IRAs, you have to pay taxes. The fourth major opportunity is one we're going to talk about in a future webinar. We've talked about this before, but one of the great risks we face is paying for long-term care. And people wonder, will I die broke in a nursing home? If I go to a nursing home or if I need long-term care, am I going to have to empty out all my savings? Because AARP did a survey and they found the number one reason seniors go broke in retirement is paying for long-term care. Well, here are two strategies where IRA funds can help you. Remember that annuity income rider I mentioned earlier that's satisfying the RMD amount? Well, it's a set rate of income. But if I need long-term care at home, in adult daycare and assisted living, maybe in a nursing home, that income rider doubles for up to 5 years or until the account is empty, has no more dollars in it. That doubler can be a nice offset to help offset the cost of long-term care. Even a bigger opportunity is qualified funds held in an annuity are exempt from Medicaid spend down. So the next time somebody says, well, you got to be broke to get on Medicaid in a nursing home, tell them to call us, because we've been doing long-term care planning for 23 years. And we've shown over 2,000 families how to preserve assets and use different techniques and strategies to protect and preserve their assets, their savings. If you're married, you can preserve all of your savings, qualify one spouse for Medicaid. If you're a single person, you can protect a large percentage of what you have. So annuities, once again, provide an interesting shielding for assets so that they don't have to be spent down in a nursing home. If you kind of look at how retirement planning has evolved over the last 50, 60, 80 years, originally we had pensions. Remember pensions? That's something our grandparents or parents maybe had. Today, we don't see very many pensions. And if you look at a pension, there's kind of a win-lose scenario. You live short, well, the employer won. If you retired from a major employer and got a lifetime pension and then passed away a few years later, the employer got to keep the money that you had paid in. So that's kind of a win-lose. If you live long enough, you won. Well, around 1978, 79, pensions started to fade away and they replaced them with 401ks. And once again, it's a win-lose proposition. If you live short, your heirs win. They get whatever's left in the bucket. But what if you live long enough to outlive your 401k? Longevity can be a real bitch. I mean, you can live long enough that you don't have money to spend. Well, what we found is using annuities with an income rider, it's kind of a win-win proposition. If you live short, whatever money's still left in the bucket after you turn down the income goes to your heirs. But what if you outlive your bucket? You remember we drain it down to zero and make it tax-free income. Well, then you win. You're not only getting free money, but tax-free money. So we talked about ways to maximize retirement accounts. This is one of the principal assets we have as we move into retirement. The second major asset is home equity. And next week, we're going to talk about different strategies to withdraw funds from a home tax-free to support and maintain your quality lifestyle. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us today and look forward to talking with you next week.